Hey guys, so today we will be installing these little guys. They are Artec Industries weldable spring perches. Show you. I have two sets, one for my Jeep and then one for Kylie's Jeep. We're going to be installing them on her Jeep. Now, one of the reasons why we got these spring perches is because when we made the rear lowers and we bought Synergy's rear uppers, we pushed the axle back a little bit past the original halfway point between the wheel well. Now, after you do that, you encounter some things. Like for her Jeep, we encountered the coil spring had a lot of bow in it. And the second thing was that the coil spring was coming in contact with the track bar. Alright, that and well, that's pretty much it. So we're gonna fix that today, so let's see how this goes. One thing about these spring perches that I liked was that they had a stock position, so if you're just replacing them, your stock ones with new ones, or you got a new axle or whatever, you can put them in the stock position. I'll show you guys a picture in a second. And they also have one that says stretch. So you literally move this, the little tubing in the middle, the little tower, you should move it forward. So it's actually going to go like this. So you move the little base of it forward and weld it on there if you have a stretch. Now, there's other ones out there like Synergies and other brands, but they were a little bit too expensive, and once I found out that you can move this center position of the coil forward an inch from stock, then I'll say these are my set. So when these came, it was you'll see the picture. It was a plate. This it's actually tubing, and this small disc and a big disc. So you weld this bolt onto the back side of this disc. And then you weld obviously this piece onto the main piece, and then the disc with the welded bolt already onto here, and then you put this disc in after you put the coil in. This is your coil retainer. Alright, so I mean, that's not hard, but I couldn't before I bought these, I wanted to figure out, I want to see the actual directions, and there weren't, so just give you guys a heads up. Wish me luck. Alright, so here what I'm doing is I'm just marking the center of the stock spring perch on both sides. I found out that one of the jam nuts on the little control arm was loose. Right here, I'm just marking the center of the axle perch, spring perch, jacking up the vehicle. I do it by the pumpkin, so I do as high as I can. Put the jack stands to their last setting. So I can take the tires off, take the lower shock bolt, and then I disconnect the swivel link from the top on both sides. I could have taken that out of the way, but I just left it there. It's faster. They weren't in the way. Next, remove the track bar bolt. Let the axle droop down. The coils will fall out, and here you see where the track bar was riveted on the coil, both sides. Both those coils. The coil is still straight. Alright, so now all we got to do is remove the actual track bar bracket that came with this Zone Off-Road 4-inch lift kit. Remove these bump stops. Now, something that I hate doing is little things like this, because it takes so long. I disconnected the e-brake cable from the axle so it doesn't get in the way of my grinding and cutting. If I had to give you guys any advice, is cut as close as you can to the axle. Obviously don't cut into it, because after you knock out that spring perch, you're gonna have to clean it up, and if there's a lot of metal, then it's just more work.
So what I tried doing here was covering that axle breather tube outlet with tape, but it didn't really, it didn't stay on. So see the new one right there. Now I exchanged the cutting wheel for a 40 grit flap disc, and it worked really good. I should have just left the grinding disc on there, and so when it took it off, so I didn't destroy one whole flap disc, brand new flap disc. Now here I'm just finishing up cleaning the passenger side spring perch. Now I measured halfway on that spring perch, so I can line it up with the mark that I put on the axle tube there. So on this one I used a grinder, and then I switched it out for a flap disc, and then I test fitted the perch, and then I ground out something in the front that was getting in the way. Alright, so what I did here was I cleaned up the areas around the spring perches, so I can weld them in place, and that's just in the general area that spring perches are going to be welded on. And then what I did was I put the tires on and lowered the vehicle down to its normal ride height, and I put the spring perches as level to the ground as possible. Now normal ride height for the Jeep is I measured, it was 23 inches from the floor to the top of the receiver hitch, and that's what I'm doing there. Now I made sure that the spring perches were level. I made a mark, and then I was ready to take the tires off and start welding.
Alright, hey guys, today is day 2 of this install here. I could have had it done yesterday, but I took a break. Anyways, what you guys missed yesterday was me installing the coils. Now, let me show you something. I thought, so as soon as I installed the coils, when I installed the coils, first thing that I encountered was that lower coil. Let's see, this lower coil right here, that last wound there, didn't, I expected just to like fall right into that cup, but it didn't. I had to rotate a couple times and it was set. Now when I installed the coils, the axle was actually a lot lower. It was in the same position I had it when I was welding the Perches in there. Now when I did the I installed the driver's side first, and it was hitting the exhaust. Now at that point I thought I had really messed up and something was really wrong, but it's because I had the axle way down to the ground. As soon as I jacked up the axle and went to simulating full droop, which this is almost full droop, and I tested it out by extending the shock all the way, and that's, I have to bring the axle up just a little bit more so those will be aligned. Well, anyways, on the passenger side, the coil was coming in contact with the gas tank. That's before I jacked up the axle. But anyways, this is as straight as it gets. This is 1 inch forward. So all we got to do now is put everything back together. So follow along.
So after I tried to install the track bar bracket, I found out that I had to cut it, make a little notch in it so it would pass the new spring perches. There's a notch. Really small cut. Didn't take much time there. So next, I slid the track bar bracket down and it barely fit. It was perfect. Installed the bump stop with those annoying little bolts. The next step was to install the track bar onto the track bar bracket, and sometimes if it doesn't align, just jack it up and until the holes meet up and put the bolt back on there. But we're pretty much set. Didn't torque anything down until it was out on the ground. Once that's done, we put the sway bar links in, and obviously it was just one bolt, the top one, both sides, and then the shock on the lower shock bolt. And we're good to put the tires on and lower the Jeep down and see what we came up with. After I installed both tires, I lowered the Jeep down to its normal ride height, and I remeasured from the ground to the top of that receiver hitch, and I came up with 23 3/4. That was a total of 3/4 of an inch of lift in the back. Here's the result. This is the passenger side coil, no bow, no contacting the track bar. Driver side coil, no bow, and not contacting the bolt on the track bar. Still got some clearance from the exhaust. And on the passenger side, you see the clearance between the gas tank and the coil there.
When I measured, when I first started, I took the measurement from the top of the receiver hitch right here to the ground. Now that measured a total of 23 inches. Now after the Jeep was on the ground with a coil spring purchase, it actually raised the back of the Jeep 3/4 of an inch. So that's just something for you guys to also think about. I know some people, want to keep it at that ride height that you got, or want to increase it. In our case, we're kind of benefiting from that because after we got the spare tire on, strapped in the back, toolbox, and all this other crap, we're gonna need that 3/4 of an inch difference. Alright guys, so everything is torqued down. I went for a test drive. It feels good. The only thing that I'm probably not going to use are these spring perch retainers. Even at full droop with these shocks that I have on, or that Kylie has on, they don't allow the spring to lose tension in the spring perches, top or bottom. So, plus when I had the axle all the way down, without the coil contacting the top perch, the coil kind of just sat in there, even if it's to one side or to the other, thanks to that tall little coil tower on the bottom spring perch. But anyways, as you can see from all the pictures, the coil is now straight. I thought that 1 inch forward was going to be too much at one point, but it wasn't. It was perfect. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Obviously this Jeep is set up a little bit different than some stock ones, but if you're planning to install these spring perches, hopefully this video gave you a little heads up of what's coming your way. Thanks again for watching.